You're listening to White Noise with your host, Drip.
Welcome back, White Noise, episode 8.
That's crazy.
Sorry for last week's break. That was unplanned. A lot of things. Wi-Fi again. Spectrum and I have an ongoing beef, but maybe me moving will end that issue. But again, I'm your host, Davis, aka Drip, the J White Boy of BRP, the former sensitive lover boy, the certified sad boy, and I am joined by the lemon to my tangerine, producer Cal.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Cal.
You know what? There was a podcast that did have intros like that. A couple weeks ago, it would have worked if I was like, "He is the Donald Fitzroy to my court gentry." You know, we could have, because more. You and I won't do the black guy, white guy combos because that's reserved for Banks and I. Shout out to Banks. Again, we're every white guy, black guy combination in cinema, TV, music history, sports history, to pretty much.
Facts.
But I thought, given that we will be talking about Bullet Train today, among some other things, that you being lemon and me being tangerine fit perfectly.
That definitely makes sense. I cannot. Bullet Train.
Well, first, let me say, so this week's episode, we're recording. It's a late recording for us, actually. I think this is the latest we've recorded since the pilot, which was J White Boys with my pops, Mike Sempervivi, who we gotta try to get on another time.
Yeah, we will. What time do we record that?
That was a Friday night. I think right during SmackDown, because that was when Semper was available.
Okay. I forget. I forget the time of that recording. I remember that being a fun one though.
That was a good one. That's when him and I had tried to convert you to Jay White.
Wait, something's going on with Jay White right now? What did I see?
So I'm not keeping track of the G1. That's actually what I might be doing tomorrow, is catching up on him in the G1. He has he's I think 5-0 in the G1, but backstage he'll do his promo segment and he calls it the To Jay Show, and he'll just run down his next opponent or the opponent that he faced prior, and it's just, again, the guy is great on the mic, great in the ring for a number of different reasons, but he calls it the To Jay Show. That's what the whole hype is about him in recent weeks, given he went back to Japan after showing up in AEW briefly. But
the To Jay Show?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he had the US of J challenge when he was over here much of last year and the start of this year. That's when he faced a couple guys in Impact and New Japan Strong.
If y'all like it, I love it. There's nothing I can say.
You got it. Puns, if used correctly, are good.
The To Jay Show is funny. It's just like some of that stuff. It's just like okay, let's go.
But no, we are recording this on this will be actually dropping on Drippaversary, the first.
That's crazy.
It'll be 2 years since the first episode I did with y'all. Not just another statistic, as what it was called, because I was debuted as the white stat guy of BRP.
What a great title.
Which was supposed to be a once a month appearance. As Fam said, I was a diversity hire.
That was the discussion. It was literally after that live. I said, it would be funny. It's like, because the report was good, and it was like, we were going to do a live once a month. It was going to be that last Thursday.
Now we're live every week.
Now we're live. Now we are strictly live, but it was going to be live every last Thursday of the month, and that was going to be when Drip was going to be able to be on camera doing stats with us. And I think we did that once, and then like the next week.
No, we've done it 3 times in terms of.
But it didn't make sense, right? Like, because you were backstage.
No. So what would happen? So I did that first one.
In the chat.
I did. The first episode I did was, like I said, August 14th, 2020.
Right.
Then I did the September one. I think right after, like a week or 2 after that, Math couldn't make the show, and you and Fam had asked if I could do it. It was last minute. I was getting a new car. I ended up getting the car I have now, but I was doing the test drive for it, and I ended up over the that weekend signing all the papers and getting it.
Right.
But no, you would ask me to do that one. I think that one's Manute Swole.
Wow.
And then there was another. I did the live for October. That's where I showed up looking like Dieter from Sprockets. You had said. That's when Matt said I look like this man likes black women and smokes backwoods.
Facts. No.
And then I might have for this just shows how my memory works or how vain and selfish I am. But we'd done the special Thanksgiving episode, which was the super crossover with Cody and Eve from Black Announce Table, and we had the famous. I might have to cut that clip out and post the Stat Guy Showdown with me and SGG. Shout out to
that was
Greg.
a good one. No, that was that was really good.
The original Stat Guy of a Pro Wrestling Podcast. When you had kicked I think Fam kicked everyone out, and
everybody was out, but the two of y'all.
And we would scrap, and it was.
Wait, all right. Wait, hold up. That we recorded that in the early. It was like a Saturday afternoon.
It was the Saturday right before Thanksgiving. Yeah,
I by the end, I was way too drunk. I think I drank a whole thing of.
I think you even had the tequila bottles, or the ones that
yes,
was like
yeah.
It was like
2:30, 3 o'clock that we recorded, and then we may have stayed on for like another hour just talking shit.
That's when Cody and Matt had went at it, and then last year's Thanksgiving, you and Cody went at it, which was
unplanned.
So this year's Thanksgiving is it going to be me? It's not going to be me because I like Cody Dre a lot. So probably Mimi or Fam. It probably won't be Fam, so it'll be Mimi, I guess. At Cody Dre will spar with at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
I didn't know if Cody was working or shooting. I'll tell you that much.
But then we did a Best of the Year with Brian H. Waters, and then I think
that recording is one of my favorites. That one is one.
That's a really good recording. That's the first time I had met with Brian H. Waters. And shout out to him. It's his father's birthday today.
That's right. That's right.
A day later.
The original H.
Yes. Shout out to Wrestling, YouTube, Patreon, all that. Same thing, Black Announce Table, YouTube, Patreon, SGG, GP,
All facts.
Shout out to everyone. No, but I think after that, the start of the year, I was doing backstage for a couple. I did backstage with The Corner. Shouts out to Kel Dansby, Andreas Hale. And then we might have done, I was backstage for when Kaz was on.
That's right.
So I was doing stats backstage, and that the end of the episode when I show up to plug my shit, I say something, and Kaz is like, "Way to be an ally, Drip," which is one of the funniest. I still have that clip. I might have to post that. I might do a compilation best of it, like simply the best. I'm like,
you were backstage. The Corner. They were on the whole episode.
Yeah, same thing with Kaz. I was backstage, and then I think Public Enemies was probably the first one where I was on it the whole time, and that was because that's when they were the full four of them.
Yeah, that was another fun episode. That was a fun episode to record.
And that's what started the Heart versus Heart, which is TBD. And then that cascaded into me being weekly with regular show, and then like I said, those wrestling girls would come on, and then it was just every week I was there. None of y'all had said you're on the show full time. I just would log in and I would still be on the screen. Was the thing. There would be a few appearances too. I think the one I posted today about you and Kenny Omega, that was one where I was doing stats on screen but not really talking as much. I would just kind of I would pick my spots to chime in.
The thing was, Drip, for me personally, I like the rapport of the four of us. Now the five of us, but I like the rapport of the four of us on screen. I thought it was weak, and so I think it would be a delay, like because you would be chatting in the private chat, and
one would have to look and see why you'd ask something. Yeah.
For those who don't know how the podcast gets made, there's in StreamYard on the behind the scenes. There's a couple of sections. There's a section for the people who are chatting on like YouTube or Facebook, whatever. And then there's like one for the people who are actually on the call. But you would have to go in that. And sometimes we'd be like joking in the chat while we're trying to do the shit. It was too much going on. So I think for me personally, it just made more sense for you to be on the damn screen the whole time. And I think the show, there's been too many great moments with you. When you and you were. Were you the deep? You were Finn Balor, and Math was Bret Hart.
Shit man,
Bret the shit man Hart,
the dope fiend and the shit and the shit man.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know.
That's again. You said the rapport, which is crazy to me. It's funny. My boss, who's an older woman, had said to me last week she's shocked that her and I get along so well and see things eye to eye, given the age difference and all that. Her being from a generation, me being of a generation as well. But her and I are just kind of in sync with a lot of things. Right. And me having a rapport with guys 10 years plus older than me from New Jersey, Baltimore, and all that, who I'd never met prior to 3 months before when we had a Zoom call to watch WrestleMania Backlash, in which you had fallen asleep during.
I'm so bad. I'm sorry. Anybody who's around me that fall asleep, I do apologize. I'd be tired.
It was because again we were picking. I think you could feel again. If everyone, we'll share that episode tomorrow, obviously. But but yeah, it was crazy to see because you could feel it in time. And I'm like, it's that thing where you play sports with someone, just when you hang out, and you could just feel an energy or a vibe. And I guess. I get my whole thing and wind up starting what was at the time they called us Mad Men, or now Banks versus Davis.
Right.
Check that out on YouTube. It's also on the Black Rasslin YouTube and channels section.
Facts.
I'm like, I probably won't last too long. Nothing against these guys, but it might not work, or they might try something. Let me now that I got my foot in the door in podcasting, because it was something I wanted to do since I first heard one, because radio had always kind of been a thing, and then try writing, and then I would always get like writer's block and all that. But podcasting was like, I could be good at this. And August 8th was the day you would message me, said, would you sit in on the pod this week? And I was like, yeah, are you kidding? Like, yeah, it was.
Drip couldn't wait to hear that conversation. Yeah. But again, I think it's one of those things.
I got the Mac the next day, and the thing about the Mac. So I got the Mac. Come Thursday, I'm like, all right, how is this done? What do you send? You're like, we use something called Streamer, because I was prepared for Zoom, all that. It didn't work. I didn't have Chrome installed yet. It didn't work.
That's right. Yeah.
Safari. Right. So I panicked. I'm like, I just bought this fucking $900 laptop, and it started working. So at the time, I had my couch hadn't come in yet, so I put my phone on this lounge chair I had, and I was basically like this. Actually, you'll see my fucking pantry in the background. I had my AirPods on because I didn't get a mic until months later, or a ring light. But that's why I look so different in that first episode compared to.
Oh.
But I was like, I'm not gonna miss this. Like, I'm gonna my phone will work, and I think I had my portable charger hooked up to it. Like, I was like, I'm pulling out all the stops, and it was, I think, the longest episode we all had done. Probably at that point, because again, I'm a talker. We could just keep talking and talking and talking. But this turned into this show again, a white noise segment at the top of 2021 about Jay White. Then turned into, once we have a Patreon, like, we all should have individual shows to talk about what we want to talk about. Then Matt was the one who was like, white noise doesn't have to be just the wrestling you like, it can be whatever, which is why today we'll be talking about Bullet Train. I watched Prey, then the Predator prequel, sequel, reboot.
I still haven't watched that yet. You're gonna have to tell me about that.
I won't spoil too much. Today's episode is called the Catch Up, because I've been catching up on a lot. We got some Hollywood news to talk about, some other things, and then preview what next week's episode could be, because now I have an idea. It's an episode that you and I were supposed to be doing weeks ago, but we'll probably finally be doing this. It might have to do with something that's on your head currently. So Bullet Train. So you had told us in the chat that you had a screening. Was it last Tuesday?
It was a Monday.
Yeah, because we thought about. Oh no, it was Monday because we thought about meeting and we didn't. And then Tuesday you told us you had saw Bullet Train, and I was like, See, I had thought about going to see Bullet Train, but I'm like, I'm not sure. The irony was I had supported all three of David Leitch's previous solo efforts. David Leitch was the man who co-directed John Wick with Chad Stahelski. He then went on to direct Atomic Blonde. We talked about it a few weeks ago in terms of the Gray Man and action directors and action movies. Mm-hmm. He then did Deadpool 2, which I like. Deadpool 2, I think it's a good sequel. I think it's better than the first as well.
I'm a big Deadpool fan. I love the first one more than the second, but I do love the second film.
See, I'm a lot of times I'm kind of like the loner on like this sequel's pretty good. Like, I'm a big Creed 2 guy. Definitely not better than the first, but I like Creed 2 a lot. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Ocean's 12. That might be an episode in itself one day. Then he did Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw, which I know you saw and hated.
Not a fan. Never been a fan.
But David Leitch, is kind of one of the big action directors now. And the funny thing is, Chad Stahelski has stayed in the John Wick universe, while David Leitch has branched out to do these other things. That, he didn't get the credit for co-directing John Wick, just the way the DGA works. But the thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you what's going to screenings like, and what can you explain that? Because I think you'll be the only person I'll be able to talk to. Like, how are you invited? The whole process, is it by you working where you've worked in the past, or knowing people, or you have to go too in depth? But just it's just by working at places you've worked, you have ins to, hey, you want to see this movie, because it's always with the potential to write about it, or how
it depends. Sometimes I'll get a screening with the intention of I'm going to do a review. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll get a screening.
Be doing.
Yeah, so sometimes it'll just be, and that's what Bullet Train was. Like, I know that people on the site are probably going to cover this film, so I'm going to get abreast of it just to make sure. I'm glad I had nothing to do with this film because I was not a big fan of it, but I didn't have high expectations because I'd been seeing trailers.
That's the thing. If you'd seen any movie the past 3 months, you've seen this trailer numerous times. Chris Ryan had said this on a podcast when I think it was the movie auction draft they had. He said Bullet Train's coming out, but I feel like I've already seen enough of Bullet Train to not have high expectations. I think that was the thing for me, where when they announced it, I'm like, this sounds amazing. Again, I like David Leitch. I like his movies. Brad Pitt. I've kind of always been low key a Brad Pitt fan. And he was phenomenal in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Obviously, Seven, the Ocean's movies, Moneyball. He's kind of been that guy. And for him to be action star, which he's only done a few times, especially Mr. and Mrs. Smith is one of those efforts. But I'm they're all around cast. They announced Brian Tyree Henry, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Sassy Beats. I'm like, oh yeah, this movie sounds like it can be dope. And then the trailers, I'm like, oh okay, and then when you watch the movie, it's definitely way more comedy than action. And I'm I think that's David Leitch's style now, given how he went from John Wick and Atomic Blonde, which Atomic Blonde was basically female John Wick. Mm-hmm. Then Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw are way more comedy influenced with good action. And this, I think he's into the slapsticky action of the Jackie Chan style. I'm going to make you laugh while someone's punching someone with a glass and all that. Right. This movie had a lot of that. But this movie also had probably my two favorite performances of the year so far, which is, again, Lemon and Tangerine and their dynamic between each other. And the whole fucking Thomas the Tank Engine. Are you going on about Thomas the fucking Tank Engine again? That whole bit. What's hilarious?
Thomas the Tank Engine. Jesus Christ.
See, everything I've written about. What'd you think of Brian Tyree Henry? I mean, who we love on Atlanta as Paperboy. What'd you think of his British accent?
You see, the thing is that he's good. He's good at anything he does. He's good at the accent. He's good at all that stuff. You talk about it being from what I understand, the source material wasn't as funny as the film ended up being.
No, so once again, like The Gray Man, this is a book. Crazy. But I looked at the synopsis of the book, and there was a lot of things. It says Lemon Tangerine are two brothers that are contract killers, and one of them is obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm like, oh, so this wasn't something a writer created, because it kind of has that Shane Black feel. One of them's obsessed with something weird. When he goes on about it, I'm like, are they seriously? And he has the stickers, this is a diesel. You don't want to be a diesel. And I'm just fucking laughing. And Aaron Taylor Johnson with his fucking mustache and in their whole report where they do we killed 16 men. No, it was 17. No, it was 16. I know we didn't kill 7. And then they replay that whole bit of going in. It's again a pretty cool action sequence. And they're looking to the camera and be 12 and then 13 and then don't forget the guy who was on the side of the car. We can't count that. It's we have to take that. We have to take accountability. This movie is has that feel of it wants you to have a good time.
Right.
Again, it's that rush hour feel. I didn't expect that really to come from, again, David Leitch. I mean, given how kind of serious John Wick is, and you and I briefly discussed the John Wick 4 Comic-Con trailer again when fucking Hiroyuki Sanada, who's in this movie as well, and Donnie Yen are fucking having a samurai sword fight in this amazing fucking trailer, and Hiroyuki Sanada is just kind of like wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so is Andrew Koji, who was Storm Shadow in that god awful Snake Eyes movie last year. He's wasted as well. And the stupidest thing about this movie, and I'm not particularly a fan of this actress, Joey King, is she also had to have a British accent for no reason,
Right.
given that she's not British and neither is Brian Tyree Henry. So you had to have two people put on British accents because this movie, I think when it was announced, rightfully so, got whitewashing accusations. Again, Bullet Train, it's a big thing in Japan, and the whole concept is hitmen on a train vying for something, and they have to kill each other. Basically, is the spoiler. We're talking about this week later, so we can kind of spoil it. I recommend seeing this.
No.
Not much is in not much is in the theaters is what we'll get to, and not much will be coming up, unfortunately. There is a great 3 to 4 minute sequence, which is the Bad Bunny section, which is an amazing origin story / music video.
That's really what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
His character, the Wolf. Shouts out to Bad Bunny for being that fucking guy. I really don't listen to his music, but I know he's a big star. Again,
everybody loves Bad Bunny.
He's a great wrestler. I did like him when he was on The Shop. He had a great appearance on The Shop I think it was late last year when he talked about his experience at WrestleMania. But in this movie, he's a badass, and that whole origin story about his wife Mi Corazon, and him and Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is kind of doing the like, I don't even know you, and Brad Pitt's like the hitman who doesn't want to kill, basically, trope, which is a thing I kind of like, but it does get tiresome at some points. I almost was like the whole time like he doesn't want to use a gun. And I'm like, oh, is this gonna be one of those things where like he's a badass when he uses a gun, like The Rock in The Rundown, like the whole time, which is probably one of his best movies, if not his best. And it was actually one of his early ones when he actually gave a shit. The whole time, like he doesn't want to use guns, and then at the end, like he has no choice. And when he picks up like these shotguns, he turns into like fucking John Wayne. It's a great sequence. Brad Pitt the whole time like doesn't use, and his whole like I have bad luck and all that, and like that's in the synopsis of this book as well.
Depressed guy.
Yeah, it was very real. The whole thing about therapy, and when you have 4 fingers pointing at someone, but Brian Tyree Henry's pointing like this, like the British way. So he's like, "Are you pointing one at me?" Or like there was a lot of like the comedy, it kind of worked for me. The unfortunate part was Sassy Beats is only in this movie for 2 minutes and she just gets murked, and I'm like, as someone who is in love with Sassy Beats as a person and an actress, I didn't like seeing that,
right?
Even though like again the whole point of her being the Hornet and that like, the way that pays off, this is a very like, I'm like, did they want to make Clue meets In Bruges, but with action? Because that's what this movie felt like to me, with like In Bruges in terms of like the way they allude to everything, like everything in the movie In Bruges with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, like the dialogue repeats itself later, in like physical moments. Like there's a whole point where Colin Farrell's like, I would never hit a woman unless she like had a ball. And there's a part like a woman's about to hit him and she has a ball. He's like, ball, and then like he punches this woman. And there's a lot of that in this movie. And then the Clue aspect is like the who done it, who's this, like who's the one in charge. Very like murder.
I think that's a good description. I think I don't know if that necessarily is a recipe for like I don't know if that makes this a better film or not. Like I
like Clue a lot.
They could have dialed back on. I think the one thing you say is key is there are a lot of people in this cast, and I think that means that some people they either get wasted or they're just not the people who do get used aren't getting used enough in the film.
Like Michael Shannon's in this movie for 5 minutes, and it's like, why? Like just to pay off an origin story that you kind of knew was going to happen. Again, that they're kind of tracing like the White Death kill this whole entire fucking Yakuza. It's just this whole thing where like, again, it's it almost was like where this should have just been an anthology movie, like short stories on a bullet train instead of it all being interconnected, because the whole point is like Brad Pitt's character takes this job because this guy Carver can't make it. And at the end, it's all traced back to this one incident, and Carver's involved, and it's fucking Ryan Reynolds in a cameo, and I was like, oh shit. However, this movie did have the best cameo with fucking Channing Tatum,
Right.
on the train when Brad was like, hey, how'd you like to make $500 or whatever? He's like, what would I have to do? Shouts out to Tatum back with Dog.
He working.
The Lost City. I still haven't seen either of those movies, but The Lost City I think might be on Amazon now. But
I saw the Dog film.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the movies. It took someone to go to the movies to see that one afternoon. I fell asleep though. I wasn't a fan.
Okay. It wasn't Turner and Hooch, you know.
No, again, if you saw the trailer, you saw
that
the
trailer
film.
got a lot of run too in the months prior to it coming out. Yeah,
it was out. It was again. I went in both these films actually. I went in with zero expectations, and I got exactly what I went in there with.
I think the thing me being like not as hyped as I was for The Gray Man, but like still being like interested in this movie is why I probably enjoyed it. I also think again it's well made.
Yeah,
because then David Leitch again being a former stuntman and stunt coordinator, the action in this isn't great, but it's also not dog shit compared to like how The Gray Man doesn't have the best action sequence until the fucking end of the film, as we discussed with Evans versus Gosling. The shitty thing is I had missed like 3 of the final 6 minutes because I had to go piss because I couldn't this fucking hernia is causing fucking problems. So like I missed, spoiler, Joey King getting hit by the truck.
Damn.
So when I missed that initial part, so when I come back, I'm like, oh, this movie's gonna have a happy ending arena. So I come back, Sandra Bullock has shown up, which I figured was gonna happen because they show that part in the trailer, and you hear her voice the entire movie, and you know like they're just not gonna have Sandra Bullock show up until the end of the movie. So I'm like, all right, I already know how this movie's gonna go and all that. But when this movie has kind of like the post-credit scene with Lemon surviving, you know, going into the water, then shooting the guy as he's walking out, then like commandeering a tangerine truck, and then smashing fucking Joey King with this truck. I'm like, oh, so there. And I looked it up online after, like, oh, so this is what I missed. I wanted to see it. I just missed it. But I'm like, oh, I still have my payoff because I hated her character. So thankfully, she got wasted with this fucking truck. That's driven by Brian Tyree Henry, who was the best character in the movie. And his whole, you are really good at that when he's not sure to trust her or Andrew Koji. Like, yo, White Girl Tits are fucking amazing. Just, he's like, you should be an actor. Did you study? It's a great film in terms of that. No, I mean, in terms of like the dynamic between Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree, which I wouldn't have picked those two guys to have good chemistry, given how Aaron Taylor Johnson is a guy who should be a movie star but isn't.
Right.
He was good in Tenet, and he's only in Tenet for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, how about that?
And he was kick-ass. Hollywood had tried to make him something with Godzilla. I think he was Quicksilver for one movie. I think maybe that's also why. I think he was a guy who probably wanted to be taken more seriously, like all these guys do. Instead of being the movie star, they want to be taken serious as an actor, which Brad Pitt does both.
Yeah.
I'd recommend go seeing this. Is there anything else I want to talk about that was worth mentioning? But
yeah, but you recommend to go see it, but there's also nothing else going on, so you might as well just go see it.
Well, that was the thing. So in the trailers, the Wakanda Forever trailer looked fucking amazing on the big screen. It just looked fucking spectacular, and I'm like, wow, there is a drought until November.
Yes. Yes.
And that's to be honest, I think that's why I went to see it. Besides to talk about it with you, was like I probably won't be going to the movies for the next 2 months.
Right. It'll be a while.
Because I can't even think about what would be coming out. I'm not gonna go fucking see Black Adam. Even a hate watch Black Adam. If Banks is like, hey, you and I have to see Black Adam to talk about it. I'm like, I'm not gonna go pay my hard-earned money to see The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, I should say, as Black Adam.
I'm gonna go see Black Adam.
Oh God. Well, you probably have the screening, so you can afford to go see Black Adam.
I'm gonna see Black Adam, and I'm gonna see the next Halloween. Yeah, that's it.
No, I had to see that for the episode for the Black Rasslin Podcast episode we discussed about me finally watching the Halloween movies. So I guess I'll be going to the theaters to see the final quote unquote Michael Myers movie.
That's what they're saying. It ends.
But yeah, until it's Wakanda Forever, and then after that, it's also kind of dour after that. But seeing the Wakanda Forever trailer on the big screen, because I always try to see movies in the super screen deluxe part of the theater I go to. And yeah, just seeing that, I mean, fuck. Again, I'm not gonna go see Avatar, but that's Black Avatar, as you had said. So I'll be seeing that probably multiple times once it's released.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. I've never seen the first Avatar. I don't think I'm gonna go see whatever else they got going on. And Black Avatar is gonna be enough.
And see, there's the thing where like how this I thought about this the other day and it'll probably have to be a future like 3-part episode about the movies I've seen in theaters, especially since I moved here. Because a nerdy thing about me is I've saved my tickets, but I also have the digital paper trail by being a Fandango member of the tickets online. So anything I can't recall, I have that access. So that might be a like 2-3-part episode of recounting and reviewing the movies I've seen in theaters. Because something like Bodies, which is out now. Well, once I found out Pete Davidson was in that movie, I'm like, I'm definitely not going to see that now. But like something like that, like doesn't interest me to go to the movies weekly just to see what's out. When I listen to like Quentin Tarantino's podcast or him on other podcasts about like going to the movies all the time, you know, when he was my age or so, I'm like, I probably would do that in the 90s when, you know, there's nothing, when the home video or streaming isn't like how it is now, where we have so many options with so many choices.
Right.
And TV is also rivaling movies or better than movies in people's estimations. As you know, I mean, you got to talk to the creators of Atlanta about Sopranos and their show in terms of like, with that, you know, that kind of rivals some movies in a way. Yeah, it's just, you know, a thing now. I mean, there'll be the Knives Out sequel will be on Netflix, but we really don't know much about that movie because they haven't shown us a trailer. I saw a good tweet about
that's a Netflix film.
Yeah, because Netflix paid $400 million to get both to get
that's not going to hit theaters either.
No, it will. It'll do like the thing so it can contend for awards. It'll hit the theaters the week before and then Netflix the week after.
Okay.
But someone had a good tweet where like this movie's supposed to be out in September and we haven't seen any footage. There's like a 5-second clip at the end of Netflix's 2022 slate. And it's like the cast loading up on the boat and then we see Daniel Craig and it's like Knives Out 2. And now it's called Glass Onion.
You said September?
It just says September 2022. It doesn't have like a date assigned to it yet. So they could potentially push it back because their Netflix, it's like this movie can release when it wants to. The thing I said last year when we had that down period in December is they should have pushed up Don't Look Up instead of waiting till.
Well, Wikipedia says it's premiering at the Toronto International Film Festival in September, then it's going to hit Netflix late 2022.
It'll probably be their Thanksgiving December movie. Yeah, that makes sense. That's
the one thing I hate though, because I mean, all right. I understand that movies play at these festivals, but that's not a release date. Like it's going to play at TIFF, and then you're going to have to wait to see it on Netflix. There's a lot of movies that are going to play at TIFF, and then you're going to see them when they come out next year. Stop Wikipedia. Whoever's updating Wikipedia and calling them release dates because they're playing at TIFF next month. Stop it. It doesn't make sense.
Well, because that's so like when will people be able to see it versus like what is the first time it's been released type thing. Yeah, it's the whole like the movies that played at Cannes that we haven't seen yet. It's like
but the thing is,
should we count those? Like,
but like I'm the one that's, you know, for a while had to do the best movies of the year, and I can't
best
count
of the year this year. I won't be. You'll have that episode off. My brother and I will be doing that episode. We'll continue our best. We started it together. We'll keep it going together. I know you have to do that for a living. I know you have to do that for a living anyway. So I won't have to.
It's different though. Like that's what I'm saying. Like in the past, I used to have to do like from front to back, do the whole list, and the task of figuring out did this movie come out this year or did it just hit the festival this year? And see, 9 times out of 10 it hit the festival.
For that this year because The Tragedy of Macbeth was released last Christmas,
right?
That you couldn't see on Apple Plus until like the first week of January,
right?
I'm like, in my opinion, that kind of does count because it was a limited.
I agree.
Release.
Yeah, it hit theaters. I mean, it came out.
It was good.
It's different than screening at a festival
and then 6 months later finally being out. Yeah,
exactly.
Like Cannes or Sundance or any of these festivals that take place. But one of these movies again. Well, I mean, if nothing's in theaters, then stuff's streaming, and that's something like Prey, which I think they dropped like the first talk of it a few months ago. I think I'd sent it to Banks, and that was one of the hard fucking pass that him and I go back and forth with whenever we see something new that one of us might or might not be interested in. And I don't remember this movie like being announced in terms of like they were going to make a Predator prequel, especially like this. And this was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who did, ironically, 10 Cloverfield Lane, the prequel to Cloverfield.
I like that film.
It's when I saw it, I was like, fuck, this is pretty good. Like I had again no expectations for it. When the trailer was released, it was like, what's going on? I think it was a Super Bowl trailer, I believe. And it was just like all the like the footage of the movie, and at the end it said 10 Lane, and then like the Cloverfield part came up, and everyone was like, holy shit, like what's this? And then when you watch the movie, and it's basically like a hostage movie until the final 20 minutes when it turns into her battling a fucking alien spaceship. But the whole time it's amazing. And shouts out to Mary Elizabeth Winstead, a great actress.
Should have had a better
career in a way. But well, he was supposed to be doing the Uncharted movie. We'll get to that a little bit later. We won't spend too much time on that, given how it wasn't really good. But he was one of the 18 people tasked to direct this movie over the last 15 years. And I think he would have done a better job at that than Ruben Fleischer, because when you watch Prey, there are some shots in it that are like very video game-esque. And Dan Trachtenberg, I think when 10 Cloverfield Lane came out, Kevin Smith, when I was listening to his podcast, said that he had known him briefly because Dan Trachtenberg was a podcaster, and he interviewed Kevin Smith. And then Kevin Smith's like, the irony is he took my career and I took his. He's now a director, and now I'm now a podcaster. Like, what kind of fucking bullshit switcheroo did he pull? And then Dan Trachtenberg did this good episode of Black Mirror called Playtest with Wyatt Russell, who's U.S. agent on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Basically, it's like a horror video game simulation. I highly recommend you checking out some of the good Black Mirror episodes. And he did the pilot to The Boys, which has now become the biggest thing of the last 3 years. And he kind of created the visual template for that show. And the pilot's a fucking great pilot. It's one of like the great pilot. That and the Preacher pilot are like, this could have worked as a movie if you added like 30 more minutes to it. Like,
right.
And then like, say he was supposed to do Uncharted and he stepped down. I think he was one other guy. I think it was Travis Knight, who's son of Phil Knight, and he directed the Bumblebee movie. Was the guy who replaced him, and then he stepped down, and Ruben Fleischer took that bit. Like I was like, he was supposed to be doing a Houdini movie. I don't think that got off the ground. And then like when this Prey, all these images for Prey, and I think the first trailer, which was like very subtle, you see this Native American woman warrior walking through the grass, and she crouches down, and then she's with another guy, and then the 3 dots appear on his head. It's like, holy shit, and it says Prey, which is like a great title to like flip on the Predator part. Like, were you big into the Predator, or are you more of an Alien?
Back when I was growing up, they were both big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
but unfortunately, the two are linked. Given not besides the fact that they had crossover films, but they came out 80s, and one was horror, one was action.
Exactly. And I think that was the key. Was kind of they were different genres, but they were both dope. And I think the other thing was like the first 2 Alien films are seen as like, you know, really, especially for their genre specifically, but in general, they're just seen as really dope films. I remember watching more of the Aliens films than the Predator films, only because the Predator films weren't, especially and like after the first film, the Predator films,
2.
Yeah, they're not like great films, but I always loved the concept and the character of Predator. The idea, the heat signal or whatever, and
the stealth.
Yeah, like all that shit was so ill to me. Especially, it's this big beast, but it still had all this tech. I don't know. I always thought the Predator was a dope concept.
And that's the thing. I think it's a dope concept, but like these guys the Predators are almost like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
In terms of cool concept, but I think they're only good against scrubs. Like if you watch Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, Like you're great when the starting lineup's on the bench, but if you have to go one-on-one with the star, you're getting killed. Like you're getting crossed out.
The Predator is Omas.
That's I don't think that's really because that would be more like because the Predator at least could like kills like that's the thing about this movie. Like, well, like so there's some great shots. Like there's this one-oneer that's like very video game profile when like you're in third person kind of when you see her walk up, played by Amber Midthunder, who I'd seen. I only watched the first season of it, but the show Legion. The show about Charles Xavier's son. That first season was great. I didn't finish the season 2 or season 3.
I never finished that, but season 1 was really good.
But she was great on that show as the person that two people that share one body. She was with the guy Bill Irwin, who was Mr. Noodles on Sesame Street, Emma's World. But she's the star of this movie. She's a great action star. But the Predator, like it just murks all these guys with its stealth and its fucking. Again, daggers and its heat vision, and the fact that again it's this, she only has a tomahawk, a bow and arrow. Like, how could she take down a predator? And you see that. I recommend seeing this. It's on Hulu, so you can watch it at home. It's only like 140. It does kind of drag. There are some moments where it does like repeat itself away, but it is well crafted in that way because it's so simple. Well told story.
Do you think this could help kickstart a new resurgence of good Predator films?
Don't forget, 2018, we had The Predator by Shane Black.
My question kind of still stands, but I hear what you're saying.
No, but they thought that was going to work because they had a great cast. They had Boyd Holbrook, who Hollywood was trying to make a star. Sterling K. Brown, who I kind of wish he would just get better projects. Olivia Munn, and she kind of derailed that movie given there was an actual predator in terms of a pedophile sexual predator on the set, and she wasn't aware of that. And
I forgot about that.
He had thrown Shane Black under the bus by saying, like, had I known someone like this was on set, I wouldn't agree to work on this movie. And there was also reshoots because you can tell certain like Boyd Holbrook looked different in terms of being in shape one scene and out of shape the next. Trevante Rhodes was also, and that was like his first big thing since Moonlight. Unfortunately, a shame. I wish he also had a better career. There's still hope. He's going to be Mike Tyson, but that's not a good thing for that Hulu series. That Keegan-Michael Key was a big turn for him, given how Key and Peele had ended previously. And Jordan Peele was going to be Jordan Peele. That movie. It just I had seen. I seen a bootleg of it, or like, I saw it online. It was bad. And it was one of those things where I always contend, like, is Shane Black overrated? But I'm like, no, he made The Nice Guys. He made Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So you can't be really overrated if you made two of the great, like, buddy cop detective films.
Right.
But you didn't make Iron Man 3, which is, I think, kind of weak. And does, like, have his Shane Blackness of, like, there's a little kid helper at the Christmas time. His tropes are good, but, like, if you've seen one Shane Black movie, you've seen them all.
Exactly.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. People have their tropes. People have their style.
But I think even still, like, I don't think him making a bad Predator movie means that he's overrated. It just means that he made a bad movie.
Well, the whole thing about this movie was, like, there was a regular Predator, and then there was, like, the super Predator. And at the end, it teases that Boyd Holbrook can enter a Predator suit, and it kind of makes you think, like, they'll take the fight to the Predators on, like, the Predators' home planet. It's a whole thing. Like, they thought they were setting up one thing. And this is also after, like, Ridley Scott had retaken the Alien franchise with Alien Covenant because Neil Blomkamp was going to do, like, a spiritual sequel to 2 and ignore everything that came after. And Noah Hawley's supposed to be doing an Alien show. I think that's maybe kind of stopped or start, like maybe it's since the stop-start stage. I haven't heard much of that since you and I and Banks talked about it on Disney's slate back in 2021 when they announced all this shit for the next, like, coming years.
Right.
There was, like, an Alien show on FX, but then it's like FX on Hulu, and now it's just just going to be Hulu because they don't care about FX? It's a whole shit show. So this movie's on Hulu, and J5, shouts out to Justin, of the A Show. Shouts to them for passing 250 last week.
Facts. They got merch too. If you didn't cop, you may be able to cop. I don't know. I was check out the A Show RNC.
But he had a great tweet last week, and I might actually try to get on the show. He had said something when he was on last time about linking up to discuss movies. We might have to coordinate that.
He's a movie guy. He's definitely a movie guy.
But he had tweeted something that because someone had said like, "Oh, this movie would have killed it at the box office. It's a shame they had to watch it at home." And he's like, "No, this movie wouldn't have." And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." Like, Bullet Train barely made 30 million, and the last Predator movie fucking tanked, which is why they were like,
"There's a reason why it's on Hulu."
Well, it's on Hulu because the Disney Fox takeover of all the movies we're gonna help boost the streaming service, but this movie is gonna make money.
But yeah, Drip, if they thought this movie was gonna make, especially at this time of the year where the only other fucking competition is Bullet Train, they would have put it in theaters. But they didn't think it was gonna do it.
People talked more about Prey last weekend, even though I didn't have Wi-Fi. I was on LTE, but I was still able to go on Twitter and see that people were talking about Prey more than Bullet Train.
A lot of people, yeah.
I had to go to the theater to see one movie, and had to wait a week later to see the other one. And it was a tie between the two. I enjoyed both, but to me, the one movie that actually made money was the safer bet on paper. You got movie stars. It's a simple premise. That's the moneymaker. And the thing, like Dan Trachtenberg made a movie that has a Comanche dub, and that's the version I watched to kind of have a more authentic experience, which is a very artistic, artistic director thing, but also like would make sense too.
Right.
It's always tough, like when people are like supposed to have accents and they don't, because like it's this time period or it's this country and they're all speaking English or speaking English with a British type accent feel. You can, and the Comanche dub kind of helps make it more authentic and elevate the story in that way. But yeah, no, this movie would have tanked, and now all these people on Twitter are like, oh, they should do one in like a feudal Japan setting where like the Predator fights samurai. You're gonna water it down.
Why keep doing that?
You're gonna like what made this so cool in your eyes is that it's so one-off. It's so authentic to its own thing. I mean, if they had chosen the feudal Japan one over the Comanche version, that'd be cool too.
Right. But I don't think there's no reason to keep doing separate movies in these different time frames and then just throwing a Predator in there. It's dumb.
And you're just going to prove my point that the Predator can't kill any of these. Like the Predator, you're going to water down like the threat of the Predator. Where it's like,
how about that? Predator was so weak that it got beat up for centuries, and then it came to the 80s and started killing Americans.
I mean, it kills Bill Duke, Jesse Ventura, Shane Black himself, Carl Weathers, and only Arnold Schwarzenegger is the person who can defeat the Predator. Like
the strong white.
That was the 80s. I mean, only Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sly Stallone can defeat anything and everything. But yeah, they basically wanted, like, there was a tweet that said, I want to see like the Deadliest Warrior version of the Predator. But I'm like, that doesn't work, because then you're complaining about like all these Marvel movies. You don't want to have 20 Predator movies where they fight a fucking musketeer, or they fight, an Aztec warrior.
So garbage after a while. It only takes one of those movies to be bad to fuck the rest of them up.
It was the fact that someone like Dan Trachtenberg, who is a smart director, given he made a great prequel in 10 Cloverfield Lane and a really good prequel in this, to be like, being, I think, a movie fan, a video game fan, a video game player, to know like, here's how you're supposed to do stuff like this. Like, this is in the 1700s, the early 1700s, and there are like some French trappers,
right?
On the because this is like in the Dakotas or whatever, and like their muskets or whatever again don't mean shit to the fucking Predator. And you take this to Japan, and where their arrows and samurai swords again won't do much. I mean, it's a cool concept, but like, or again, like I said, the Aztecs, where the temples and their spears and all, like it's a cool idea on paper, but like it just waters the product down. And as cool as it would be to have versions like that, that's when we get into like something like Uncharted and Lightyear, which is like these 4 movies all have one thing in common, which is IP, which is they're all based off some. Bullet Train's a book I had no idea existed. The Predator is a prequel. Lightyear is a movie that's based off a character in a fictional movie, which is the greatest opening tagline in history, which is in 1995. Andy Saw movie. This is that movie.
A movie based off of a fictional character, the toy of a fictional, the fictional character that was introduced via a toy.
It's like how movies are now. Like the movie is created to sell toys. So like they're like, we need something that sells a toy. Like, and that's like I actually kind of enjoyed Lightyear, especially like the first opening scene is pretty good. It's kind of like Archer, like he's Archer in a way.
Right.
He's kind of this brash asshole who doesn't like people, but he's super good at his job, so he's able to get away with it. And the whole point of this movie, like, you know, it's about him learning to trust people and friendship, and, you know, it's okay not to be the hero all the time.
Right.
But again, they should have just made this movie live action. Like, it being a CGI, I had pitched this idea to you and Banks, like John Cena should have been the star of Buzz Lightyear, the movie. People probably would have wanted to see that a lot more than this Pixar version of the movie of the toy.
I wonder, he probably wouldn't have done it. I don't know. Aside from that Nickelodeon movie where he was a firefighter, I feel like he's been purposefully taking on roles that are a little more adult or a little more that aren't for the WWE.
You got to cover all four quadrants, though. You got to cover the old people, the kids, the teens, and the adults. Like,
he doesn't have an old people movie
yet. You mean the Suicide Squad? Is it?
Oh yeah, he needs a genuine, like, not fried green tomatoes, but like he needs one of those, like, be trying to get old.
That, but he wasn't John Cena. He wasn't John Cena the actor yet. He was John Cena the wrestler still.
That was what I interviewed. I interviewed him after.
Oh, because he had the spray, the tap out spray, right?
It was after Trainwreck. I don't remember if he was in that. It was like an It was a mockumentary about like cycling.
Tour de Pharmacy.
Yeah.
You know what? I was just thinking about that today because for like 4 out of the last 6 years, Andy Samberg had a hell of a run.
Yes.
He had 7 Days in Hell, the tennis mockumentary. He had Pop Star, which I saw in the theater. So we'll talk about that when movies I saw in the theater.
Okay.
I had nothing to do that afternoon. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see Pop Star. And I enjoyed it.
People love Pop Star, and not like ironically, like it's genuinely funny.
There are only a few things I like ironically, like legit a few. Like Pop Star is good. Like the songs are good in Pop Star too. Like some of the Lonely Island stuff is really corny, but some of it's like really good too.
See, I like that stuff, but I can't continuously go back and watch that stuff as a thing. Like it's cool for that moment, maybe in that time after.
He had Tour de Pharmacy, and then right before COVID, or kind of right at the start of it, he had Palm Springs, which is a great Hulu
and
movie.
different.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's basically Groundhog's Day.
I mean, it's almost a satire of Groundhog's Day in a
way. It's if Groundhog's Day was like a modern rom-com. And when I say modern, I mean like it's modern.
Oh yeah, say in the modern day, yeah. But anyway, shouts out to Andy Samberg. But the thing about John Cena in Trainwreck, everyone was shouting how great LeBron was in Trainwreck, and he's not bad. But John Cena was so much better than LeBron in Trainwreck. The scene in the theater when he's like, "You want to do a pass?" I look him, and the guy's like, "Is he trying to like trash talk me?" And then his wife's like, "I think he wants to fuck you." Like,
he was good because he was a similar weirdo in Blockers. Did you see Blockers?
No, I did see Blockers.
I thought he was good in Blockers.
He was good in Blockers, because he was the superhero dad in a way, like the overprotective superhero dad.
Yes.
But John Cena, I think in Trainwreck might be winking at when Amy Schumer dated Dolph Ziggler.
She dated Dolph Ziggler?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
I don't know if I'm gonna say I did not know that.
This is when Dolph Ziggler having this weird blonde woman fetish with like Sunny, that one YouTuber, and Amy Schumer. All the stuff was kind of being revealed. Like Dolph Ziggler, something's up with this guy. But
I didn't realize they were a couple.
I think they might have gone out a few times or hooked up a few times. I think she might have said like he was too athletic for her.
Yeah, I see that they're talking about reasons why she dumped him. I can't find any photos of them together.
No, it was never nothing like that where like they were ever covered. It was just like, you know, him being like a stand-up comedy nerd and all that. But I think that was like her casting John Cena to be like this workout type guy.
I can see
because like he's 14 times the size of her.
I can see that as a shot. Yeah, I can see that.
But no, but Prey, I recommend. You should watch it when you get a chance. I think you'll like it.
My son was mentioning Prey. My son's getting to the age where he's he not only is into all this shit, but like he's looking out for it. And I guess he saw an ad for Prey.
Yeah, what did I hadn't been on Letterboxd in forever, and I checked something, and you said you watched something with your son. What was it?
Lucas. We've been watching a lot.
I saw you watch Lucas. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck are you watching Lucas for?
Saturdays we do like family movie nights. We watched Children of the Corn this week, and he gave it a 4 out of 10, which is probably a couple of stars more than I would give Children of the Corn. But just trying to get him to watch more shit than Pacific Rim. And
yeah, you said something about like kaiju stuff. Yeah, I'm like,
he loves Godzilla. He was big on both Pacific Rims, like stuff like that. He really loved.
I haven't seen the second Pacific Rim, even though shout out to my boy Scotty Eastwood, and shout out to John Boyega.
It's not bad. It's not a bad fit. The first one is better. I think they go a little too over the top, but I mean, it's
well, that's because Idris Elba showed up to act in that movie.
Fact. No, fact. But like just story wise too, it's like it's a true sequel. We got to have bigger and better and more everything, and they probably could have scaled some of that back. But he loved those shits. But it's cool to get him to get into other movies as well.
Yeah, but something like Lightyear, which when I was watching it, I'm like, I know this is like, well, no animated movie is for kids. That's always
not anymore. Yeah.
Like, well, no, never really. Like when you see like the subtext of like certain ones in the 40s or 50s and 60s, like they all have
facts. But the thing then was because society was different. They could write those shows. You could write a lot of those winks because they were basically they were just making each other laugh at certain points. And be erased for them. And now it's for the parents who are sitting and watching the movies with the kids.
There is like the adorable robotic cat, which I was a huge fan of, called Socks. I'm not a cat person. I know you are. But Buzz Lightyear's sidekick is this robot cat, and he is fucking hilarious. And he basically steals the movie. But there's also a great scene in this movie. It basically does the Interstellar, where like Buzz Lightyear travels forward in time multiple times, so it speeds up like every few years for him. He comes back to try to save them. To get them off this planet, he has to travel at the speed of light, which causes time to change, obviously, because that's how time travel works.
Right.
And then it gets to a point where he sees his best friend, voiced by Uzo Adobu, or Adoba, from Orange is the New Black. And she's aging, and she's starting to have a family and all that. And then at the end, she leaves a voice hologram for him. And she says, by the time you see this, I will have passed away. And it does like the Interstellar moment where like when Matthew kind of gets back on, and I'm like, I'm like, this is 25 minutes into like a kid's movie, and they do the Interstellar part where like Matthew McConaughey gets back on the ship, and it's like he sees Timothy Chalamet grow up into Casey Affleck, like
right,
and it's like, oh my god, like
yeah.
But I'm like, Keke Palmer's in this movie. We'll kind of get back to Nope, because you had said something about you'd wish you'd saw Nope again instead of Bullet Train.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to see Nope again, but I'm down for a Nope conversation.
We'll stop it a little bit briefly here, but yeah. So Lightyear, I mean, if I was a kid now, would I wanted to see this? It's the same thing. Would I be a fan of these Marvel movies? Given how like, again, your son's I think a little bit older than my stepbrothers, but I just mean like if I was like pre-algebra, would I be into this stuff? Like, I mean, I grew up watching Toy Story. I carried the Toy Story and Space Jam VHSs with me everywhere, according to my parents. Like,
I would assume so.
I mean, I see the toys. I'm like, yeah, those look cool to play with. But it's one of those things like, what would you be a fan? It's the same thing I had said. Like, what wrestlers would I like now if I was a kid? Would I like Matt Riddle? Probably. Like,
if I was a kid now, I'd probably. I was always a fan of the heels though.
I was born to like the baby faces, and John Cena was just right there.
I was always Rick Rude. Who were some of my Bad News Brown was always, but it was always because they were like mean. Arn Anderson, they were mean, but they were dope.
Yeah,
you know. And
you were smart. You were way smarter than me. See, this is why I hate stuff like Stranger Things, because my kids are stupid. They wouldn't be doing any of this. Like, they're idiots.
Yeah, no, it's I'm also
like the Goonies. Like, the Goonies are stupid. That's why it works so well. The exception of Mikey and Data. Like, those are the only smart ones. But even then, half of Data stuff doesn't work. Like,
hey man, he made slick shoes.
So that is great, slick shoes. But in Uncharted, so I think people were kind of surprised that this movie made it to Netflix. But I think it was announced over the start of the pandemic or sometime in that middle, like that summer, that Sony and Netflix came across a deal to put Sony content on Netflix.
Well, I mean, yeah,
which means Spider-Man films, Jumanji, anything else that might be.
Well, let me ask you a question, Drip. Where do you go to watch? Where can you go to watch Sony movies right now? Do me a favor. Tell me.
No, that's what it is.
Which is crazy.
It's the Sony owned.
But what's the service where you could go and watch all of the Spider-Man movies right now?
They bounced around from service. They were on Peacock recently.
There's no spot. Like, people were surprised that you couldn't watch them all on Disney Plus. I mean, they don't. It's not how it works.
And this goes into this is what we might talk about with Justin, hopefully, or someone one day. Is again like these rights and distribution and all that. We had kind of briefly talked about it with the Incredible Hulk movie being Universal.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's why they can't make a solo Hulk film.
Yeah.
But again, like Stars is the Sony channel, and like that, and that's why I'm shocked. Like, why isn't P Valley on Netflix? Because I'd be able to watch it then if they wanted me to watch it.
The thing is. And this actually goes back into like early pandemic, when all of the companies were shoring up for your Paramount Pluses and all these different streaming services based off of the IP that these companies own. Sony was not doing that.
No.
If you wanted to watch all of the Spider-Man movies before watching No Way Home, you better hope to have had a Blu-ray or figured out, like you said, what services had them on.
Sony is like Impact. Like, you have some dope stuff now and then, but like, y'all be shooting yourselves in the foot every fucking chance you get. Like,
they have issues because they're not. They own a lot of things because they also are the people. They make the PlayStation and the fucking Walkmans, but like they don't have any creativity. And I think the key is the flip side, because you mentioned Stars. Stars technically, I believe, is a Lionsgate. I believe Stars and Lionsgate are linked up.
Sony, I think Lionsgate is a branch of Sony. But
regardless, Stars, they weren't turning Stars into an HBO Max rival. Like,
no.
The Stars app is primarily for your Powers and your P-Valleys and all that other stuff. Yeah, and they want to. Yeah. They're going to keep. And the thing is, the Stars fan base is so loyal, they're probably not going to try and farm that stuff out. They want people to go and pay however much they got to pay to get the Stars app because they know they're going to be loyal to Stars. Sony understanding now that they need a home for their stuff digitally makes sense. I guess Netflix is the best bet. Mad people have it.
That's why I'm like, you're better off, especially for Netflix, given the reports this year, how they actually might be bleeding more money than we think, and how they actually, they might be wanting to transition away from making so much stuff. Partner up with a company that has a whole archive.
It makes sense.
Just like how there's some, because Mimi had mentioned this, and I was low-key kind of figuring out that Amazon and Paramount kind of have something going on, and Amazon had bought a lot of MGM stuff, and then
they bought MGM.
At first, but then bought them out completely later on. They had
That's
bought
what I'm saying. Whatever, $8.4 billion or whatever they bought. Like they were buying. That was all IP. That was an IP play.
And then they have certain Paramount stuff, like you can watch The Lost City on Paramount Plus, and if you have Amazon Prime on Amazon Prime, that's what I'm saying. Netflix has to like realize at some point, because what made Netflix so good, it was like before they created their own stuff to play fuck you to everyone, was they housed everyone's stuff. Then everyone was like, you guys are actually the ones benefiting from all this,
right? Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, that's what got them so many subscribers.
Like, not only are we gonna have Civil War on here, we're gonna make House of Cards. We're gonna have
Right.
stuff that you want to see that's out of theaters and stuff that you only can watch on here, like Stranger Things and Thor Ragnarok. You want to watch those, you can only watch them here. And then Disney, which should have done this from the start, was like, fuck you. We look at all the shit we can have. And then they got Fox, and then they could completely decimate everyone now.
But I think it would have, we probably, think about this. If Netflix never started making original content, they probably would still be number one.
Yeah.
It wasn't until House of Cards, The Stranger Things, and all those original series started blowing up. In addition to having The Office and Friends and all these other legacy shows where your Warner Medias and your CBS Viacoms and everybody said, well, shit, that's us. We don't all this. Let's turn it into something and basically be the Netflix for this.
A hot line versus a hot song, or the hot, that.
They almost changed the entertainment industry twice.
You know what they're doing? This is kind of preempting one segment later on, but they're DJ Khaled.
Yeah,
you have Drake on a song. To me, that's a Drake song. You're just putting your name on it, and you're not. I'm not singing. I'm not playing this song to hear
the logo at the beginning of the show.
That's I like the song "Staying Alive" with Drake and Lil Baby, but it's a DJ Khaled song, just like how I like "Grease," "Pop Star."
I can't. I'm not a fan of Grease. I can't.
I mean, all these Drake songs are actually. I mean, DJ Khaled songs are actually Drake songs too, but DJ Khaled has to do his fucking shtick in the first 20 seconds. In the first 20 seconds of Staying Alive, he does another one. DJ Khaled, and he says one other thing, and I'm like, can you just let me get to the song already? DJ Khaled. I'm like, fuck off already. I've never been a fan, and the fact, I'm like, I get this guy's great for people like you, who have to create content. He's a content gold mine. This guy's amazing. But would you say he's good musically? He has talent?
DJ Khaled he's a good DJ. I think when DJ Khaled, when I first heard him, he was making, I didn't know anything. His personality wasn't like this. He was making beats because he was rolling with Fat Joe in them. So you would get a Fat Joe
sell himself.
Yeah, you would see DJ Khaled, credits or whatever. I forget when it was. Once he let his personality out.
I think because the first time I heard him is I'm on one. I'm like, who is this guy?
But that's the problem. It's like the way the industry is set up, the music industry. You can be a very talented person that nobody will know because you're not putting yourself out there. So that means you can have 10 years of credited whatever in the chamber. I've worked with these artists. My name has been on these albums, whatever. Once you make yourself a personality, it's like you're starting from day one. And because the people who know of you now, especially if you hit mainstream, they know of you because of now. They're not doing research for then until you get canceled, or they have to you pass away, or something happens and they have to go back into your history or whatever. So he may look like an untalented individual, and a lot of the times he may be an untalented individual, but and even before he was getting tracks signed and putting them on people's albums, he was one of the guys in Miami. You went to Miami.
I know he was a star
would go to Khaled. So it's almost like a perfect storm of being able to do this now. He's built up the credibility and can do it. It just so happens that he's able to sell himself in a very obnoxious way that made him go viral, but also made people hate him. But I guess the question.
Netflix.
I guess the question.
I think him being I'm selling my song because it has Drake, Lil Wayne, and Rick Ross on it. It's technically my song, which is the thing that always kind of pisses me off because it's credit. Shouldn't Max Martin really be the biggest pop star in the world because he wrote all those NSYNC and Britney Spears songs? But this is the thing about Dr. Dre, right? As much as he produced all those songs, they're written by 18 other guys.
But mind you,
how much work does Calvin Harris or Mark Ronson?
But
Technically, Uptown Funk is his song. Like
when you say being the biggest star, you're talking like the person performing and going on tour getting like $100 million versus the person who wrote it getting like 40 million or whatever, being able to chill at home.
That's
like
40 million though. Like
Calvin Harris does not care. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
I think at a certain point, it's how much do you want to do? Like, how far do you want to go? And I think, if we're talking about Khaled and Netflix said we're not content with being a Tubi or whatever the fuck was the iteration. Yeah. We've got a lot of content licensed to us that we can then distribute to the people. They wanted to make original content. They wanted to become a channel, and they made that happen. And then that kind of made everybody get pissed off and saying, "Well, shit, you're shining off of our shit and a lot of our shit. It'd be whole seasons of shows just sitting on Netflix. We can take that content and make our own. And I wonder if that's what Khaled's got going on now, because Netflix still puts out bangers in terms of Don't Look Up. You got all these stars in these films. They still put them out. I'm saying bangers in terms of like
something that generates
star-studded appeal. Yeah. When it happens, it's going to be something people are looking at. Yeah.
Why? But here's the thing. No one besides you and I talked about The Gray Man.
Right. That was it. That's been the problem.
They spend on The Gray Man was the thing, and I forgot to say this about Bullet Train. The whole time, this was like a running bit for me on Twitter. I had told my ex about this too.
Uh-huh.
Like, to me, Bullet Train was a Netflix movie, but I'm like, but this movie's gonna be playing in theaters. But it's such a Netflix movie to me, it doesn't make sense.
That's crazy.
Like, everything about it screams Netflix, but it's like, I'm gonna have to see this movie in the theater when everything in it screams Netflix. Like,
sometimes Drip. Well, and remember, a lot of those Netflix movies were probably going to go to theaters, especially in the last couple of years. Many of those things were destined for theaters that, Netflix, they were trying to pay how much money for it?
They had bought like 2 or 3 movies, or like known, like
they were trying to buy. What was the name of the last James Bond movie?
No Time to Die. Well, Apple
was trying to buy that
400 for this.
Yeah.
The irony is, like, Sony should have took that fucking deal, because that movie kind of tanked.
It did not.
In terms of expectations, yeah.
It was. I think the pandemic. That movie was already getting delayed. I think the pandemic really hurt that one more than some of the Tenet and that film probably got hurt the most.
Well, Tenet got hurt because the Chris Nolan-ness of it.
It shouldn't have come out at that time, though. If that movie came out when more people could have seen it.
A movie I went to see in the theater, kind of that. We'll talk about, like, and that would be a good series of episodes in that.
I like that. I like that idea. I do like that.
But
Drip at the movies.
But Uncharted made $400 million this year.
I heard,
and it's a bad movie.
I heard it was
a bad movie. Mark Wahlberg is sleepwalking. And he's somewhat a bad actor, but he has his moments where he really shines. The fighter, the other guy.
You said somewhat. He's not been good in a while.
The Departed. Oh, he's fucking great in The Departed.
He's had a lot of, like, because a lot of it's just him with a gun killing the people.
He's a good, like, Bats 201, but it'll get you like 20 homers. Like, he'll be at the bottom of the lineup, but you know what? Like, the Mock, Mock shows up. You know what you're getting with Mock. Like. But no, he was supposed to be so when he had his docuseries Wall Street, which was on the best of 2020, my best of 2021 last year, which was Mark Wahlberg propaganda, but I was all in on it. It showed him getting ready to go to film Uncharted, because he was like, I've been trying to make this movie for 10 years, and at one point I was going to be the star, and now I'm the old guy.
Right.
Because he plays Sully, the mentor. I never really played the games. I had briefly played the first one. Did you play the game?
I've a little bit. The games.
They're fun, but I'm just not that much of a gamer, is the thing.
But I've probably made this point before in passing, but as cinematic as those games are, you would have thought the movie would have been a better film. Like, it would the Like when you would watch when you could go right now watch somebody do like a playthrough of Uncharted, and when you watch a cutscene, it feels like, and it's not like a short thing. It feels like you're watching a scene out of an actual film.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the actual film,
well, it's always bad. Like I had said, when Dan Trachtenberg was one of the 18 guys asked to direct this movie, and they had to go and get fucking poor Ruben Fleischer. I know I shouldn't say poor Ruben Fleischer because this man made Venom, which made $800 million, which then got him the chance to fucking make the long-awaited sequel to Zombieland, which I still haven't seen because I'm kind of scared it might not be good because I love the first Zombieland.
I don't remember what the thoughts were on Zombieland, but you mentioned he doing the Venom film.
And he was in Hollywood jail until they were like, we need a Venom movie. Here you go, kid. And then they fucking freed him to sleepwalk direct that movie with fucking Matthew Libatique as its cinematographer, who's like one of the greats who fucking shot A Star Is Born and like Darren Aronofsky films. And then now Uncharted, which is again, they're like, Ruben, here you go. This will buy you another chance for you to not fuck up. And this again movie is Tom Holland. I like Tom Holland a lot. I actually do think he's like a good actor compared to what some people think. I do think he's talented, but there was a good comparison by someone saying like he's basically playing Peter Parker as an adventurer. Because there's a lot of I'm sorry, or his shtick of like, funny, charming guy who's like, oh no, I'm in danger, but like I'm gonna get out of it. Like,
I think people need to warm up to the fact that maybe Tom Holland as Spider-Man is his ceiling.
Is all he can do.
Yeah, I don't.
But I had told this to Banks that they trapped him in this movie. They're like, because this is a Sony movie. He's already in a Sony deal with Spider-Man. Like, kid, you're gonna fucking be Nathan Drake whether you like it or not. And he was probably like, I want to make a Fred Astaire movie. And that's exactly what it was. Right after Uncharted was released and made a shit ton of money, they're like, Tom Holland's gonna be starring as Fred Astaire. So that was probably his passion project.
Yeah, no, facts.
That was his.
He's a dancer and everything. Yeah,
that was his 2 for them, 1 for me, as Denzel would say. But again,
Uncharted's currently the 10th highest grossing film of the year.
Yeah, don't even get me started on
right behind Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
And this, like I said, he's likable in it. The rest of the, it's just like, I had tweeted this. There are more backstabs and betrayals than in this movie than Wild Things. It's insane.
That's funny.
Like,
that's the game, though. That's the game.
But the whole time I messaged you, and funny, I think I might have tweeted, and after you and I had a brief conversation about the first time I saw Wild Things, which was like the end of 2020. I'm like, did Vince Russo write this movie? Why are there so many swerves? Like, it doesn't make any sense that like he's
the first time I saw that on VHS. The amount of I was like, what? Him too? Yeah, the whole film.
But I'm like, and funny when we do movies in the theaters, like one of the movies I would have wanted to see my age now, but I'm transported back then. I probably would have saw Wild Things, given like, wait, you mean to tell me what happens in it? Like,
fuck. I was too young when that movie came out. I think when it hit VHS, I might have been. When did that movie come out?
It's like 99, 97. It's mid to late. I think it's like 95 to
98. What year? What month was this? So March of 98.
So I was 3.
I would have been.
You've been 16.
The end of my junior year.
Just doing the math now, and you would have been 16.
Because I graduated the following year. So by if that came out March of 98, I saw that whenever it was on tape. It might have even been like that fall. I remember being at someone's house, like, what the fuck? I just because they're kissing, and I loved her and Scream and Denise Richards, all this other stuff, and then I'm like, what? The
great Bill Murray and Wild.
I should rewatch
her in the trial. Like
I may not have watched that since 98, 99, something like that. I'm due for a rewatch. And I don't remember half of it. I just remember people kissing all the time and everybody fucking backstabbing everybody.
My letterbox review, aside from the adventures I write this movie, was, did Matt Dillon see Basic Instinct and be like, I want to play the Sharon Stone role instead? Like, I want to be the person who seduces everyone.
I could do that
because it works.
It works.
No, but the thing also about Uncharted, like, it's not like dog shit. It's not like Fantastic Four. It's just like, it's a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10. It has its moments. He's good. That's the thing, like, and I think in the better hands, and like I said, if they weren't in such a rush, because this movie was also filmed, I think, right before and then might have maybe finished during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But again, Sony was in such a rush to get this done, but as you see, they're spending time on this, The Last of Us show. They'll be on HBO. Well, who knows? Better. Who knows? Given the current climate of HBO content,
something's gonna see. The thing is people weren't paying attention. The week before all those rumors started popping, they had canceled a show called The Gordita Chronicles.
Yeah. Which I saw you would watch a few episodes or whatever you like.
Yeah, because the homegirl, shouts out to Rebecca Smith Delgado, I believe. Or is it Rebecca Delgado Smith? She's one of the hosts at The Alarmist. It's a podcast. Rebecca Delgado Smith. The one podcast that had Fraser and I on as guests. We had
wait until I ask you to get him on here to talk. Something we'll be getting to briefly.
We'll see if I can get the summer man to do anything. The Alarmists, they do a podcast where they kind of like they look at a problem and they try and figure out who caused the problem. They had us on to discuss who was the source of the issue between Taylor Swift and Kanye West. It was a fun episode. They actually had me back on. Was it this year or last year? It was last year. They had me on last year to talk The Shining. But anyway, she was on that show, and they had just canceled the show. And when they announced that they canceled the Gordita Chronicles, they mentioned that they were pulling back on scripted. They were pulling back on scripted content and something else. So I was already, no pun intended, I was already aware that they were cutting stuff.
And this is HBO, just kind of HBO Max, not HBO proper, because there's a good graphic of what HBO Max stuff is and what HBO stuff is. And Euphoria is not going to be in danger.
But I think that's the key distinction. Like, because remember, after Gordita Chronicles, they were removing a lot of Max originals, which, like Netflix, is things that they would license. That like they would basically buy the property to say we're going to be the exclusive runners of this property. But I think with HBO Max, it sounds like it was just licensing for whatever, maybe the first couple of years or whatever the case may be, and then they bounced it back. And it was Charm City Kings might have been the best movie out of that list of movies that they were initially taking off, and that was a very small movie that may not have been seen by as many people if it wasn't on HBO Max. But they're not. I say all this to say I think there will be, like you said, a distinction between what is going to be on the service and what things they plan on, because Euphoria is good. I'm assuming Peacemaker's good. I'm assuming anything.
James Gunn said something this week about Peace. Don't worry about Peacemaker. I think that was something that, given how it's DC, but again, Batgirl was DC, so that's. But
remember,
last week, because that was the big news, and you're like, we should talk about this stuff instead, and then
there was
the Wi-Fi happened, and then there's now what else is potentially in danger? Well, the Ezra Miller stuff is still questionable, but that's a theater release. And
that's also Ezra Miller. That has nothing to do with anything. But I think the thing when you mentioned Batgirl, the most recent quote I saw, it may have been just yesterday, they said that it wasn't a movie. Like the project that was being made didn't make sense to be a 2-hour movie. It made more sense to be in the format of a series. So it's what I'm getting from what the Discovery people who are now sitting atop of Warner Discovery are doing is they're erasing the last 2 years. They're saying, we know that the prior regime wanted to build HBO Max and turn that in, because at the time nobody knew if anybody was going to go outside anymore. They didn't know if they were going to theater, so they wanted to make content to build up this service, which they did. I mean, All
This
your
is why
friends got
Banks
HBO
and
Max,
I,
right?
that's why Banks and I had the running bit of HBO Max, even though I believe it is the best streaming service in the whole HBO Max pay us, and then we changed the logo to be the HBO Max style. But no, I mean, aside from it being HBO proper and having that library of Sopranos, The Wire, Entourage, all these shows, always being a house for the biggest movies that were released 7 months ago.
Yep.
To me, HBO was always such a big deal whenever I would get like a free trial or just seeing the name, like, or when HBO shows became available. Like, I didn't have cable in California, but Entourage was able to be shown at like 11 p.m. on Fox. I'm like, oh shit, I've been wanting to watch the show forever. And HBO again is the prestige, which is why like something like Showtime or Stars, fails in comparison. And Netflix wanted to be HBO, which is why they created House of Cards, why they created Orange is the New Black, and then then they were like, we're going to be more commercial once Stranger Things took off.
Right. They I don't think they were ready for how big some of those shows got. They just wanted to
be. You can't create a Game of Thrones without having
the
money or the people in charge or the actors in place, because again, all these same actors do all the same HBO shows.
But I don't
think know what to expect. Like
they the interesting thing about Netflix right now is that they've kind of morphed into a place where, because they want content they want big names on their streaming service for people to continue to pay for the streaming service. I think that's what it is. And they're willing to pay for content that may not always be not even that, but like may not always be like financially viable in terms of like a month and a half in the theaters. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot, it's like fast fashion is a thing. I think like fast content may be what Netflix is doing. It's a lot of
which is why
you take it, you binge it. I mean, again, think of the terminology. You're binging it, and by the time you're done binging it, there's not even a conversation online. It's here's the meme, here's the one scene that everybody's talking about. What's happening next? And by Monday, that you don't even remember it.
Well, and HBO is kind of like the weekly thing of like, it's the show we all get together to watch. Like Insecure was a big show. Game of Thrones was a big show. Earlier this year, they had basically
Euphoria.
The Wire's. Oh yeah, Euphoria, but the Wire's spiritual show. We Own the City, right?
Yep.
And currently they have. I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm kind of waiting to binge it in the ways. Rap Shit, Issa Rae's new show. I've seen no one really talking about that. I think people might not like that as much as they like Insecure, but she's not the star of that is the thing too.
Right. It's a different new show. It's I think stuff with Issa to even Insecure. It
took a while
that didn't blow up till season 2. When I was at Complex, we got.
I started checking it out after hearing one pod talk about season 1, and then once season 2 was I think halfway over, I started checking. I'm like, holy shit, this show is good. Like
season 1. Season 1 was great. Black people loved it, and I think critically people loved it. She did, and I'm not saying that they sparked it, but she did the cover at Complex. Right, it was like right as season 2 was premiering, and I think as season 2 was going on, the people who slept on it caught up, and it became a bigger deal on the timeline. By the time season 3 came out, everybody was on board. It was already,
and you can tell too that like half of season 1, they're not sure. Then it ends.
Right.
And they were fully invested. That's why I think it's only like a 6-month span between season 1 and season 2 in terms of like when it starts and when it ends. Like it was like it's like the first season of The Office is the same thing. Like we're giving you a tryout in a way.
Right.
And then they must have liked what they were seeing back and then picked it up for more. And a show, I'll probably talk about The Idol featuring one Abel the Weekend testify, hey, is HBO's next big show. They had Winning Time this year.
You like that trailer, yo?
We
did not talk about this.
Well, because this was prior to me coming back to podcasting.
That's right. Yeah, you were still
in the thing. It's The Weeknd, so I'm already all in, and then it's Sam Levinson, so I'm already all in as well. My friend, like I had to double down when the project was announced. I was like, funny thing, you rewatched Uncut Gems like what, a week or two ago?
I may run it back. I may run it back tonight, honestly.
And that's another episode. Movies we constantly have to run back just because we love running them back. I know there's already the rewatchables. I'm not gonna gimmick and fringe on the mothership. Right. But shows like in terms of like there's so much stuff we already should watch, but like if it's still on a service, I'm always going to be watching it. Is the thing.
Uncut Gems is currently on Peacock. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I went on Peacock because I'm like, oh, look how much they got on Peacock now. They have a few things. Where I'm like, yes.
It was on Netflix for it premiered on Netflix. Was there for like 2 years.
Okay, see, we might have to start this next week. I saw Uncut Gems December 31st, 2019. I had no plans on New Year's Eve. I went to go see Uncut Gems.
You were frazzled for the rest of the day. You were like on edge.
No, I saw it at like 9:00 at night. To be honest, I'm like, people were lying when they say they were on edge because this movie doesn't scare me. Like I'm sorry. This is one of my things about the movie. I don't get like the oh my god. Like
I don't get like that. I don't get like that. I definitely. I saw it. I mean, fact check. I saw it the day that RP John
looks fucking amazing in this movie. That's what I walked away with. Like
the day John Witherspoon passed away. That night it was announced. I left the screening and turned back on my phone and the word came that he had passed away. I was in California. I was in the hills. Shouts out to my homie. Speaking of Fraser,
because on the weekend.
Well, this is the thing. Fraser had seen the film like months before. I was out in California for
I remember this movie was being talked about because it was a hit at the festivals.
He might have seen. He saw it. There were a couple of parties that he went to. Because I remember he said he went and saw it in Trinidad. James was there, but I was in LA, and facts, and I was. He was like, if you're not busy, there's a screening going on. Here's the address. I'm like, okay. I don't be in LA like that. And I was right by what is the Comedy Store. That's where they had us staying. So it was a decent part of town. And when I was like, here's the address, and get in the Uber, and then he makes that left to go up. And I'm like, what the fuck? It was somebody owned this house. It looked like it was somebody's house, but they happened to have a screening room. It was literally, and it was kind of janky. It was this big ass room with a big ass like projector, and in the middle, like towards like maybe the corner of the back of the room, they had like a big like a control desk that I guess controlled the audio for everything, and just chairs and shit set up. It had to have been a good like maybe 75 people going to these people's space and watching this film there. I recognized one writer who was there, and I again, it wasn't the oh my god, but it was. I was definitely like, what the fuck? Like he's in the trunk, like he got punched in the throat. Like it's really a journey, and it's one of those things where it doesn't stop. Like you'd have to count how many scenes he's actually laying down or sitting down in. Sometimes he's moving.
He has this whole thing where, like, I mean, we're not going to talk about Uncut Gems. We'll talk about it when we go on the trip at the movies.
We can have a whole podcast episode about Gems. I'm probably going to rewatch. I didn't finish it the other night. Is what happened.
But I don't know. But again, the Weeknd's in that, and I mean, I didn't think he was a bad actor, but he was also playing the Weeknd. I thought his dialogue with Julia Fox was very realistic, if I'm being honest.
Can you feel that?
So I'm like, but he's going to be the star of a show. Okay. And it's Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp's in it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's like written and directed by Sam Levinson. I'm like, so 2 out of the 3 things I'm interested in, even though Sam Levinson is someone who I'm like fascinated by and also kind of revolted by in a way.
I could see that. I that makes sense.
Only in terms of like, I understand the criticisms of it. Again, we might get this if we'll at least review the pilot maybe, but
no, we should. We definitely should.
That was something that come down the line, but
yeah.
But speaking of your man Fraser, he might be the person we need for the when the next Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 trailer drops, because last week Tom Cruise was on the Light the Fuse podcast, which is like a Mission Impossible podcast,
right? Where
they like talk to all these people that have been involved in any way in Mission Impossible, the TV series, the prop department, the stunt coordinators, anyone who has anything to do with Mission Impossible, they talk to them. And they had their 200th episode. They talked to Nick Offerman, who's in it. Mark Gatiss is in it, and a few other people. Then Tom Cruise was on it himself, along with writer-director Chris McQuarrie.
Damn.
And Chris McQuarrie said the reason it's 2 parts is because they had shot 2 hours and 40 minutes of it, and they still had more to go.
What?
So he was like, So what you're gonna see is 2 hours of one. So he's like, I have 40 minutes of part one, right? Of part two right now. So
He's
2 hours.
ready.
Yeah, and the thing is like, and I actually am still being able to shoot stuff for part one to add because it's a back-to-back production in a way.
Crazy.
And there's also a time jump possibly because certain characters who are in one are still back, but they have different titles. In terms of their department in the government and all that. It's as much as I love Fast and Furious, I kind of grown to love, even though I always liked them in a way. Right. Mission Impossible is number 2 in terms of my franchise. Like Star Wars kind of never really was that, even though I grew up with the prequels.
Mission Impossible is number 2 to Fast and Furious being number 1.
Yeah, it's also the cruisiness of it and the fact that at least for the first 5, they all had distinct different styles because they were all 5 different directors, and then. Right. It was Brian De Palma, John Woo, J.J. Abrams, and Brad Bird, and now it has been and will be Chris McQuarrie, who I'm a huge fan of, especially anytime he's on a podcast and hearing him talk about his process and all that. It's fascinating. He said himself, like, these movies are going to be insane given what Tom Cruise is willing to do, and just the way he is so meticulous about certain details of them and. The cast involved too, and the fact that again you're doing a back-to-back production. Again, COVID got in the way because we were supposed to be getting, I think, one this year and then one next year instead of
COVID fucked that up too. Yeah.
And Chris McQuarrie played a part in Top Gun Maverick, which best movie of the fucking year, brother. Like, I mean, I know you haven't seen it. Yeah. I know. That's why. I'm so hyped for it. But I know you're a man because you told me you got him a hat, which is a future episode.
Yeah,
And I think he was also someone who was hyped as much as I was when that leaked trailer dropped, and then they had dropped the official trailer a day or two later.
He's big into all this. Specifically, I think Cruise in general, but like Mission Impossible, definitely is but it's high on a lot of people's lists. It's probably one of the best franchise, like legitimate best franchises going right now, action or not action.
Because it made the thing of, again, each each movie was its own director. Like 2 is really a John Woo movie. J.J. Abrams in China kind of turned it into his style. Brad Bird made it this way, and then Chris McQuarrie's like, it's American James Bond with Fast and Furious stuff with comedy and drama and all. Like he turned it into because Fallout is the best one, the one that came out in 2018, the last one. Right. But then this week it was announced that. Again, I had said this part that basically Cruise and McQuarrie are Scorsese, De Niro, the director and the actor, and producers because they're both producing these movies. But they're going to be doing a new musical, an action thriller, and then the long-awaited sequel to Tom Cruise's Les Grossman character from Tropic Thunder.
What?
These are their next 3 projects together. A musical, which. Because I think Tom Cruise wants to be the song and dance man that he kind of never was. I think maybe the risky business thing scared that away from him. He did do Rock of Ages.
Tom Cruise in a musical. I don't want no buys.
But then but the action thrill, I'm like, okay, you've already kind of been doing that, so that's not too dissimilar. But then the Les Grossman thing is like, I think it was weird. I think it's weird to do this now, given how Les Grossman I always assumed was supposed to be Harvey Weinstein or Scott Rudin or any Joel Silver, any super producer who now has all these allegations, whether not just sexual, but berating people, just being an asshole. The super producer, the ones like that. Saul Rubinek played in True Romance. Like these guys are assholes to work for because they're just tyrants. Mm-hmm. But Tom Cruise is great in Tropic Thunder when he does the, when he just basically tells everyone to fuck off. He basically is like, what Succession's about. Like maybe that's why they want to do it too.
Maybe
is to combat that. But again, this is Tom Cruise having to put on prosthetics to have a bald head and fat hands. So I'm also interested. Maybe this is so he can stop having to kill himself on Mission Impossible and just kind of take a breather.
Maybe. Who put out Tropic Thunder? No, I say in terms of like the.
I think it was Universe.
Let's confirm. Was it
Paramount?
Paramount.
There we go. He was the Paramount guy.
And could this be coming out on Paramount Plus?
Well, no,
could this be mining IP?
Nope, don't forget, because he fought to keep Top Gun Maverick off Paramount Plus, and
this is Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder, though. This is a lot.
Tom Cruise is now the $1 billion man at age 60.
You also said he was doing a musical and wants to do it. I would not. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if he's in an age where he's done. He's gone to Xenu or whatever the fuck. He's fucking gone to space in Mission Impossible or whatever these damn
he
movies.
Is supposed to be doing that SpaceX movie with Elon Musk and Doug Lyman, I believe.
If he's trying to be a song and dance man, and all, maybe as his career winds down, he's like, look, maybe I'll try everything. I'll keep my movies in the theaters, and I'll give you a Les Grossman whatever to do whatever you want to do with it.
I mean, Top Gun Maverick is going to be my favorite movie of the year, best movie of the year. And he opened before that. You see a 2-minute PSA of this man saying, "Thank you for coming to the theater. We made this movie for you to sit here and watch it in the theater. And I can't tell you how happy I am that you are seeing it here in the theater." And I am just like, I get it, my man. You saved cinema. And you had went on that speech during 2020 when you said, "Put on your fucking mask or you're off the fucking set." And he was right. He was also justifiable for saying something like that, given how bad COVID was.
Yeah,
and still is.
But also, he wanted.
He had said we were saving people's jobs and their lives and putting foods on their table, and like, I mean,
he was really out there trying to make sure he could get his fucking movie made. Like,
as much as he is a psychopath and is probably a horrible, terrible person, I don't even have to say probably. But goddamn, is this man a great movie star? And I can't help but root for him and cheer him on. And you know, it's that thing about having problematic faves, but everyone's problematic.
Problematic faves, yeah, because it's a Scientologist world, and we all just live in it.
But the final note before we wrap up, it's our now tradition to have something Gray Man related. Speaking of David Leitch and Bullet Train, his next film is The Fall Guy, starring the one and only, the Gray Man himself, Ryan Gosling.
This isn't related to Gray Man, though?
No.
Okay.
But Ryan Gosling is going from the Gray Man to the Fall Guy. Like the naming, I mean, and this is based off the 80s TV show with Lee
I was going to ask, okay.
If you weren't sure. So if I can just read the quick synopsis. Again, so again, I was already, they said Ryan Gosling, I'm like, okay. And then it's like David Leitch directed, I'm like, okay. Then it's like action comedy, I'm like, say less, says man, say less. Like,
say less. That kid's still in here. Is that little boy
and the release date is March 1st, 2024, which is a shame. But
say less.
I think it was yesterday they announced that Emily Blunt will be joining this movie, and Emily Blunt has basically kind of turned into an action star given her role in Edge of Tomorrow, for a Tom Cruise movie, which still might have a sequel.
She's really an action star.
They tried with Jungle Cruise as well. In A Quiet Place, she kind of plays the Ellen Ripley type.
As far as you didn't, was she the one that was in Sicario?
Yes.
Say less.
That was you.
Fuck you. Yeah, no, she was in Sicario. That's what I mean. Like after Edge of Tomorrow, she really went on this
kick
of being an actor. She might have done maybe one other thing, but it's basically, you know, he's a stuntman who's a bounty hunter, and David Leitch has said, I can kind of resonate with this character that I'm a former stuntman, so there'll be kind of some tropes on that, and David Leitch's wife is a producer, so this might have some winks and play in terms of satirizing Hollywood and like dealing with movie stars and producers and studios. So it might be the action comedy version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like,
right, no, 100%. Which whatever.
Which that was my favorite movie of 2019.
Shit. Speaking of your favorite movie of 2019 and Brad Pitt, look how this all goes full circle.
That's what I mean. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, this is what you get with White Noise, you know.
But wait, because you know, Cliff Burton was based Cliff Booth. I'm sorry, he was based off.
Who killed his wife? He killed.
He was based low key off of Jean LaBelle, who recently passed away.
Yeah, And also, well, I mean, the relationship between the two was Burt Reynolds and his stuntman,
Mhm.
but there were a whole bunch of inspirations for the character of Cliff Booth. There was another guy, and again, the fact that again, Gene LaBelle and his martial arts background, because again, the whole point that Cliff Booth can kick Bruce Lee's ass was the controversial aspect of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino had said,
It could happen. Or it did happen, or something like that.
The whole thing, one interpretation was that's how Cliff remembers it.
Right.
Like that thing, like, oh yeah, I was kicking his ass, but like that's what he thinks,
right.
You know? Like I had him on the ropes.
It was like 50 years ago or whatever.
But no, like this movie, The Fall, and it'll be a movie in theaters and all that. So I mean, Ryan Gosling also has The Wolfman coming out, I think, before then, and I'm already like a werewolf fan. So like, this is why I said he's my guy, because he just knows what to make. Like,
for you, they're remaking The Wolfman.
Yeah, with,
it's about an actual Wolfman.
It was supposed to be Lee Wanell who did Upgrade, which is pretty good, and the Invisible Man reboot.
Upgrade. I fucked with Upgrade.
And the Invisible Man reboot, which is the last movie I saw before COVID hit.
I like the Invisible Man.
I liked that movie a lot. It was really good.
I didn't love it. I liked it though.
He was supposed to be taking on Universal monster movies going forward, but I think he stepped down from this. And Derek Cianfrance, who did Blue Valentine and The Place Beyond the Pines with Ryan Gosling, picked up the project instead.
Word.
But yeah, it's they're remaking The Wolfman, which is kind of my favorite, I guess Universal monster. I mean, no offense, like the Mummy or Dracula or Frankenstein, but the fact the Wolfman is just so much more relatable. But yeah, it's just that thing where
the Wolfman, the guy just turns into a dog and starts trying to eat.
Well, I mean, I can go into the I can go into some like the meaning of transformation and and the animalistic part of man that we succumb to at times and in certain moments. I'm not going to go too poetic, even though I am a lyrical soul. But yeah, I mean, this is like Gosling just knows what to do. Like he's like, I'm going to make the grave. I'm going to be fake Ethan Hunt. I'm then going to go be the Wolfman, and then I'm going to go be Cliff Booth. Like he just and he's Ken. He is Ken. He's in the Barbie movie. Like
you're going to go see the Barbie movies.
I probably will, to be honest. Hopefully, I'm with a woman at that time, so it won't look as bad.
You'll have to have a woman on that week's episode to talk about it.
There will be. See, this is why this journey will be so good, because I also remember who I have taken to some of these movies in the theater with.
You gonna bring them on the pod too?
I can't. I would just. You know what? Big Mike could, because I think we've seen at least 3 or 4.
Big Mike's always.
You wanted to get him on to talk about his experience at Dynamite and Rampage, but we'll get him to talk about the Live Golf League sometime this year and the parallels between that and AEW and wrestling.
Word.
But yeah, no, am I gonna bring the three exes the 4? Fuck. Oh my god, the 4 exes I took to the movies.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for February.
For the woman that I dragged to go see Justice League 2017.
Yeah, it'll be like a therapy session. We can talk about it.
Oh God! Then I have to actually go to therapy first.
The White Noise Valentine's Day special drip.
That will actually be something. Don't give me. I'll try to put something together for that. I don't need to do the drip journey through cinema.
Oh no!
But
yeah, we need at least one X on the pod. Whichever X you're most cordial with.
I guess the most recent one, but that's still too soon.
Yeah, that feels way too soon.
There's also some unresolved stuff there.
Yeah,
but the other exes, no.
Damn.
You know what's funny? Fuck. You know what? It's the Drippaversary, so fuck it. So the day you messaged me to be on the pod, I was with the ex that I was friends with benefits at that time. She was with me that day for like a night stay over hookup. We went to get Chick-fil-A, and I think in the drive-thrus when I had gotten your message. This is how my mind works, and this is why I am cursed with like knowledge of useless shit. Because the thing about Dynamite, my dad was like, "So who is this person?" Even though he was aware of some people already, but when we watched Dark Elevation. Like Konosuke Takeshita came out, and I'm like, this guy's fucking amazing. He's like, and we saw all the wrestlers like, oh yeah, you're right. So, like, but he knew like Andrade, and he'd seen Ricky Starks before, and Jade Cargill, obviously. But my whole, and that's the thing about like these women who I had to take to these movies or watched any movie with me. I am that so and so from this, especially
the info
like,
guy.
I am that meme, which I have to guess I own up to it. I'm not afraid of it, but that's again, I'm sorry, I know all this useless shit where I'm.
Nah, it's fine. It's
I have to turn to them and be like, "That's the Gray Man." Like
he was in this movie called The Gray Man.
No, he's the Gray Man. Like, yeah, but no, there was one time where everyone was like, "Wow, you know so much shit." And I'm like, it's the most useless shit.
Yeah,
to know, but you know what? It works for podcasting. That's how we end the Drippaversary, because I'm here. Like Matt said, you're here for a reason. You had said it yourself last year. I think you're like, we wouldn't have asked you if you couldn't play the game.
Exactly. It wouldn't have even been a conversation.
Even though there was a month where I was like, you know what, it might be time to hang him up. But for now, like I said, until the next time is when I'm not here is the time I'm here. So
facts. Big facts.
Maybe I'll just be like how Peter Parker's like, I won't be Spider-Man anymore. Then like, you know what? Some people need to be saved.
I think I can jump out this window and help somebody tonight. Nah, yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Thank you for subscribing, obviously, to the Black Rasslin Patreon. If you're paying the $1, no shame. If you're paying the $10, that's how you have a hat like Hal, or a hat like this, which Big Mike has now given me because he doesn't wear snapbacks and flat bills. So I ended up getting my hat, man. I got my fucking hat.
Trip was so concerned about that hat. No,
I wanted that hat so bad. And on Black Rasslin Patreon, you can also get Black Watch, which drops every Monday with the great downtown Tony Brown and the one and only IlFam79 on your social media of choice, who is also the host of Something Else Pod with Lovely Lovo, which drops every Wednesday morning, afternoonish, 11:11.
Yeah,
you said 11.
11. Actually, I figured it out. So yeah, 11:11 is when that episode or new episodes of that drop every Wednesday. Black Rasslin YouTube.
And that's where they talk to people who are wrestlers or involved in wrestling about anything but wrestling in a way. But also on the Black Rasslin Patreon, we have Cal's Black Rasslin Podcast Club.
That'll be back soon.
Math and Mimi's Coffee Kicks, and these two shows will be back. So we're like George R. R. Martin, like the book is coming.
Yeah, no facts.
Will we be talking about Hassel the Dragon? Because I don't think you and I really fuck with Game of Thrones like that. So probably not.
I will see. I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, but I told myself.
Neither am I. I watched, but I didn't love. I mean, it was good, but I didn't care for it.
It's not. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not my bag. But I'm gonna try and watch at least the first couple of this show before swearing off of it if I can't get into it. But I don't know if that means we'll talk about it here. Yeah,
but we also have Bulls in the China Shop with the mighty Vin of the Oddball Podcast and of Wrestle Rap and Wrestling Observer Live's own Mike Sempervivi to chat. Whatever. I mean, they didn't go this week, but last week they were talking about. I just see the headline of the episode, and I'm like, the fuck. So you never know what you get with the tandem of Vin and Semp.
If you're on the Black Rasslin Patreon, the last episode they talked about.
It's old-fashioned milk devices, right?
So, yeah, somehow we do. Suzanne Summers was spoken about. There was some West Side Gun for a Throat conversation. There was a lot going on. Was it porn? I forget what the question. There was a lot. There's Bulls in the China Shop. There's always a lot going on. We didn't record this week, but we should be back next week.
Like, so the real episode is Irish Mike and Italian Mike. I don't know what they would talk about. It's probably sports and some other stuff, but that'd be, and maybe some rap, some rock. But that's if Vin can't make it 1 week. Black Irish would probably fill in for a bit.
We'll have to figure that out. I'm with it.
And I wasn't on last week, but shouts to Victor Perry, and please donate to his wrestling club's GoFundMe so we can get these kids, these amazing kids, to WrestleMania in Hollywood next year. Because he's doing amazing work, and it'd be awesome to see them go to the show. But most importantly, Cal, where can they find you on social media?
At Cal on Twitter, at Black Rasslin on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are the best places to find me and or what we're doing here. Again, youtube.com/Black Rasslin. We're almost there. If you haven't subscribed, you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Patreon.com. share, like, tell a friend, all that stuff. Actually, I think that's the thing. Because we get people that rock with us that subscribe and they watch every week.
Tell some people.
Oh yeah, you like if you have friends that you know would enjoy the pod, like you don't have to be that one person in your circle who is laughing in the corner, watching the YouTube or listening to
whether
us.
They like wrestling or not. I mean, we told a story about pedicures, and one man told a story about a woman running up a car. That's like
it's criminal how we can still call it a wrestling podcast. But that's the thing. It's like we have a wrestling podcast, but some weeks it's criminal how little wrestling we talk about. But I think this past week specifically, we had Trip went to AEW, so we had a good conversation.
We had a good Dynamite review. Like I said, the show was good in person, and I think it was a good show at home too. But
that's the pod, and that's hopefully we'll give you that good mix over there, and you can come here and get all types of pop culture nonsense.
Yeah, and I still have some specialty wrestling episodes to do. We were supposed to do one last week about Carmelo Hayes. So stay tuned about that one.
Word.
So now that I came up with this cinema journey, we might be doing that. So I just come up with so many ideas. It's like, which ones can I get to first? It's like the Tarantino thing where it's like, I came up with the idea for Kill Bill 3, but I probably won't even do that. Like, which is a shame.
If he never makes Kill Bill 3, anyway.
But you can find me on social media at Davis, aka Drip, Instagram, Davis Colon DC. Banks versus Davis is on YouTube. You never know when we might reunite and link up any given time to discuss anything. So keep your eyes on that and watch the archives. If you like how this show is, it's very similar to that. So I'm just doing Cal. Again, like I said, Cal has the unfortunate burden of being Banks' replacement. And now I'm going to put up with the nonsense of me having, like, I watched this week. We got to talk about this. Unfortunately, you are not like Banks who saw Day Shift. So we would also have to talk about the Jamie Foxx movie Day Shift, which I would just like, fuck.
I still have to see that. That looked like a lot of fun when I first saw clips.
Really? Oh, God damn it.
When I saw the trailer, I saw, again, this was early. Back in my old job, I got invited to like here's what Netflix is going to be doing this year type meeting. And they played a clip from the Kanye doc, and then they played like the early teaser of Day Shift. I said, "What the fuck is zombies and Jamie Foxx? And it looked crazy." I still haven't watched it yet. I don't even know if it's good, but
it seemed like
I may need to. Maybe the worst I'll make you watch is Halloween. We'll see. I don't know.
Well, but again, I have to at least watch John Carpenter's Halloween, and the first Halloween reboot was good. I thought. The one that Danny McBride and David Gordon Green did. I thought that first.
Oh yeah, the first one, the one from 2018. That's it's solid. I don't.
But that's for Black Rasslin Podcast. But that's when I go to your version of White Noise. That's when
you go to Black.
That's when you grab my arms and do the Danielson stomp to be like, this is what we're doing this week. Which unfortunately I didn't get to see. I saw him show up and talk on the mic.
All I've seen was him grab Garcia's face.
If he had wrestled, I would have taken a video so you would just have him stomping the shit out of someone, and that would be the intro.
I've never seen him wrestle live. I need to see that live.
Same,
I wish I can. Anyway.
This is White Noise, episode 8. Episode 7 should now be on YouTube, which was you, me, again, the aforementioned Il Fam. Shout out to Where's Buffy too, like he said, that should be coming back, and the creator of the intro music, Sham, Lord Vader himself, talking MCU news from Comic-Con.
Thanks.
We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.